Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. February, of course, is Black History Month. Americans have been recognizing Black history annually since 1926, first as Negro History Week and later as Black History Month. It was created by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a Harvard graduate, who was disturbed to find in his studies that history books largely ignored the history of African Americans and their contributions to the world. Our conversation this morning will begin with Mr. Clayborn Benson, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Black Historical Society and Museum. Good morning.
Good. Mr. Woodson really did think it was necessary that our young people learn about their history so that they can just simply have a purpose for learning, have a purpose for progressing.
Yes.
And so we now celebrate Black history.
You've got that right. And you are the go-to man when it comes to Black history in Wisconsin.
Yes,
and so I am really happy to have you here today to kind of share some of the things that you know that could enlighten others. So I'd like to first and foremost, before we get into all the great things that you have going on at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society and Museum, I'd like to take a look at your personal background. You spent 39 years.
Yes.
As an award-winning photojournalist for WTMJ right here in Milwaukee. So needless to say, you've seen quite a bit.
Right.
So over that 39-year period, you've just about covered every major news story that happened in this area, and then some. And then some,
around the nation and around the world. I've traveled all over the world.
That is
I think the real historian is my dad and uncle and granddaddy, because I grew up in a barbershop, and there we listened to all kinds of stories.
Oh, yeah.
And history makers would come into the barbershop on a regular basis.
That's awesome.
So that's the basis of my beginnings.
I think it's just remarkable that someone can stay on any job that long and be able to perfect it, and to where you are able to train others and prepare them to be just as great.
Well, I wonder also, I marveled about that 39 years and the things that I've experienced. I'm happy about it. Yes.
Yeah. It's something to be proud of, that's for sure. So after retiring from the news business, you founded the Wisconsin Historical Society and Museum, which is located exactly where in Milwaukee?
27th and Center, and we've been in existence for 25 years now.
So tell us how that all came about. And
I went back to school. I went back to University of Wisconsin to get my BFA, and in doing so, I did a number of projects about African American history. I fell in love with it. And when I retired, I wanted to have some place to keep it and to build on it, and so I started the Historical Society. It was not an easy task, but me, along with others who have helped me over the years, we have a viable organization that I'm very pleased that it focuses on Wisconsin's African American history, which is a rich and very special history. Should not be ignored.
I agree with you, and Wisconsin's Black history dates all the way back to the 18th century.
Oh, even earlier than that.
Wow.
Black people have been here since 1750.
Wow, that is amazing. So some of the first African Americans in Wisconsin were slaves, or was it also a part of the fur trade too?
A fur trader would be there, and we were brought with the French to help control the Louisiana Territory, and selling all up through the northern Pestigo. There are a number of fur traders who African Americans with, and some of the women married fur traders, white fur traders. So in the western part of the state, you're right, slavery did exist in the state of Wisconsin. They harvest lead, so the population goes from 30,000 to 3 million people. People forced here with great zealous to get some of this lead because it was worth a great deal of money. It was so important that in the Civil War, 70% of the lead used in the Civil War came from 3 area states, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa.
Very interesting. See, people are definitely going to learn something today.
And the founding governor, territorial governor, and then late state governor, the second state governor, Henry Dodge, we've heard the term 40 acres and a mule is his term. He coined that term and freed his enslaved people, as well as took that concept to Washington, D.C.
Wow. So, in speaking of slavery that was, you know, here in Wisconsin, Joshua Glover, that may be a name that many of us living here
Yes.
may be familiar with.
Yes.
He escaped from a Missouri plantation,
Right.
traveled the Underground Railroad
Yes.
to Racine, and then actually somehow made his way here
He was captured. His friends told on him, and the U.S. Marshal came and got him and took him to Cathedral Square, where we had the spring concert
And jazz in the
musical.
park,
yes,
all those things.
That's where the courthouse used to be, and the jail. 5,000, the book says 5,000 people actually broke him out of jail. But the real story behind that is, yes, they broke him out of jail, and yes, they took him to Burlington and Waukesha and for 3 weeks back and forth and hiding out in different places. But the real story about that is that the federal government, the President of the United States, writes a letter and asks that all the people responsible for breaking him out of jail be punished in some kind of way. And the state of Wisconsin goes on record to say that's not a law enforceable in the state of Wisconsin. I say that because the fugitive slave law is part of the Constitution of the United States. And that's how they wanted to defend slavery, to keep slavery in existence by insisting that they be brought back. Wisconsin ignored the federal request and the Constitution of the United States. That's significant and important. You almost think that people liked us at the point, but that's not true at all.
Well, and speaking of Joshua Glover, you were instrumental in bringing that story to life through art. So when people are driving right there on the I-43
Yes.
freeway underpass,
Yes.
if they've ever seen that that mural,
We're proud of that mural,
if they
too.
didn't know what it
Yes.
is, they will now. And explain how you did that.
Well, the state wanted to have some art effects that go along with the building of the Marquette Interchange, and they asked us to come up with a design. And so I put together a team of artists, and we put images and words in the walkway, as well as build a mural. Two of them are there, Caroline Qualls and Joshua Glover. Those are the two that we celebrate. There are many more that actually came through the state of Wisconsin, but those are the two that we celebrate.
All right.
And they're significant and important, especially Joshua Glover being the state to defy. Supreme Court Chief Justice Rehnquist was from Wisconsin. When he came back to visit Milwaukee from time to time, would often brag about Wisconsin's position on ignoring the federal government.
Wow. You are just like sitting there with a wealth of knowledge. And
There's much more to learn.
I'm sure a whole day would go by if somebody had coffee. So I want to talk about some of the things that you have planned, not only for the month of February, but coming up in the upcoming months as well at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society and Museum, so that people can in fact take part in it and walk away knowing something they may not have known before. So
I would suggest that they go to our website, but I will verbally talk about them.
Well, give out your website address as well.
Yeah, WBHSM.org.
Okay.
WBHSM.org.
We'll put it on the screen so they can jot that down.
Right.
So talk about what you have
And we're doing
planned.
a series of things at the St. John's House on the Lake, which is a senior citizen place. We're doing our Black History programs there. In fact, we've got a program there tonight and some more programs in the month of March. We're also doing, because we believe that history starts with us, that people need to begin to think about history from a personal point of view, because it's so massive and there are many books that you could read. If you know about yourself, you begin there to expand your history and your understanding of what your ancestors went through. And so we're doing a genealogy conference at the end of the month, and we're bringing a number of people in to teach people how to trace their own family history. This is our third annual conference on genealogy and how they bring some national people. And they are very, very, very good.
It's very interesting when you take a look back, and people are always,
Who am I?
It's never
Look
failed.
in the mirror. Look in the mirror.
It never fails. You're surprised. You're like, what? I've got Irish in my family. It's interesting to say the least. So that third annual genealogy conference is going to be taking place on Friday, March 13th at 7:30 p.m. And you also...
that is taking place the 28th. The 28th is a Saturday, and it's an all-day conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all-day conference.
It's all-day conference.
And again, they can go to the website for those details.
They can go to the website.
Okay. And something very important, you're doing a bus tour to Selma.
Yes.
And people right here in Milwaukee can take part in that?
We can, yes. I think we've got 40 seats available, and we're going to Selma on the 5th through the 9th.
Okay.
This is the anniversary of the Selma March across the Pettit Bridge, and there is, in fact, President Obama is going to be down there as well. And there are people from all over the country. Bus trips are going from Detroit and Chicago, and we're sponsoring the bus trip from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we're excited about that, and people are calling. So people, again, should go to the website. We're still working out the details of it, but by Monday of next week, we will have them all set in place, and people can order their tickets and go.
Be ready to go. You are also going to be, I think it's the public television had put together a documentary on the fabulous Vel Phillips, who, needless to say, has such a rich history in setting the tone of how things are in this city as we speak. You're going to be showing that documentary that's done on her called Vel Phillips, Dream a Dream.
Right. We're going to do that on the 19th.
19th of February?
Yes. The Holocaust Museum and the Urban League are co-sponsors with that, and we're doing that on the 19th of this month, February.
Now, we're quickly running out of time. That always happens when we have a great conversation going on. But I want to know, if someone just happens to stop by the Wisconsin Black Historical Society and Museum, what are a few things that they can look for?
Well, we have exhibits there now, civil rights exhibit that looks at the three major events that occurred. One, the riots that took place in Milwaukee, the desegregation of the school systems, and the fair housing movement led by those. So those exhibits, we have a work exhibit on the kind of jobs and the motivations for African Americans to migrate to the state of Wisconsin. And then we're Bronzeville exhibit.
Of course, can't leave out Bronzeville. And there's a quote that says, you can't know where you're going until you know where you've been. So in your opinion, as we wrap up, why is it so important for people to understand their history and their culture?
Our son, Carter G. Woodson, really hit it right on the mark when he said we need to have a Black History Month simply for people to learn about who they are. And that's why we do the genealogy piece. It starts with you. You don't need to expand your dreams and read all these books. I mean, they're important to us. But once you have a focus and a trail, look in the mirror. Who's my daddy and my mama?
And that's a great way to wrap up this segment. Thank you so much for stopping by. It has been a pleasure. Mr. Clayborn Benson is the Executive Director of the Wisconsin Black Historical Society and Museum. For more information, you can log on to wbhsm.org or call 414-372-7677. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we will continue our focus on Black history as I talk to a history maker who will share his experiences as a Negro League baseball player. We will meet Mr. Dennis Biddle right after this.